and would love to have your insights. So our talkback line is open on 1800 316 316. Mary Dickins is our guest. She's coordinator of Fostering Hope, and she's based in Tasmania and serving children and families all over Australia. So no matter where you are listening in today, any state or territory, you'll be able to be in touch with Mary Dickins at fosteringhope.community. Mary, let's take a call. Simon is in Airlie Beach in Queensland. Simon, welcome along to 2020.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Mary. How are you?
Very well. Simon, what are your thoughts?
Well, I've got two different viewpoints on adoption, and adoption is one of the viewpoints, but the other one, when it comes to fostering, my wife and I, we're not allowed to have any kids, even though we have one little girl, and she was very much a miracle, and we were told that we shouldn't be having any more children. So we looked into the fostering and that kind of thing, and we just really haven't actioned anything more of it at the moment. My little girl turns 9 this year, but at the same time, we also looked at adoption. Just going back quickly, but with the fostering care, to be 100% honest, I cannot imagine taking a foster child and looking after them for a month, 2 months, 6 months, 2 years, and then suddenly, like, everything goes, especially around here where we are, you have to give the child back, and then a child comes back again because it's been abused again. And then it constantly repeats itself over and over again. I strongly feel that there should be some kind of movement towards the federal government or the politicians or whatever to reform adoption laws in Australia, because, we've got friends and family who tried to adopt in Australia, and it's virtually impossible. You have to go overseas to adopt a child if you want to. I find that kind of thing just absolutely ludicrous.
Simon, let's get a thought or two from our guest. Mary, the difference between adoption and fostering, the fact that it's almost impossible to adopt, but when you do foster, sometimes that's got time limits on it, and there's all sorts of loving attachments made, and then you've got to give that child back. Yeah. And give us your thoughts here, Mary, for Simon.
Yeah, it's a great point you raised, Simon. So I guess a bit of context, as Simon said, adoption is very hard in Australia, and the numbers are extremely low each year of local adoptions. And I think that goes back my observation to the stolen generation and forced adoptions. And as a government, the policy then flipped completely the other way to we don't do adoption. And so the world of foster care, we try and frame it as you're being a family for a child, not getting a child for your family. And so it's a little different, but hopefully people then go into it thinking, I'm going to be a family for that child as long as that child needs me or needs us. And I hear what you said, Simon, that doesn't make it any easier when you have attached to a child and you care for a child, and then you see them returning to a birth family situation, which isn't ideal. That is, I guess, the world of foster care, and it is also the reason people who want to adopt and have that child forever, it's a reason they won't enter the fostering world. Every state and territory is supposed to have a permanency planning, which means there should be a pathway to permanent in care or adoption. So those of you listening in New South Wales, there's a foster to adopt system in New South Wales. And I totally agree with Simon that I think nationally politicians should be having this conversation, because there are a lot of children and a lot of carers who are in a position where kids want to belong in a family. I have a almost 15-year-old, and he's been with me for 8 years, and I am his family. My little 2 boys have never lived in any other home. And they just want to belong. Lots of kids in care say, I just want to have your same last name. I want to have that piece of paper that says I'm part of this family. So definitely that's some of the advocacy work that Fostering Hope and other organisations do. But yeah, I guess where we're at the moment, it is preparing for the fostering journey to know that there is always going to be a birth family involved, and unfortunately sometimes decisions are made that we don't perceive as in the best interests of the child.
Simon, is that a helpful response there? Because yes, that whole being prepared for taking a hit down the track of having that detachment yourself. You have to prepare yourself for even the possibility of your own heartache. Is that helpful, Simon?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Another sort of thought now with what Mary just said is, what does, if a child is put into foster care, obviously the parents have got a few issues. What happens with those parents? Are they somehow helped to try and get off, let's say, for example, get off drugs or try and get out of the violent situation? How do we put a child back into a situation where the child has been abused violently or anything like that? What has happened with those parents? Is there some kind of training with the parents that kind of suits the child's family home better now that the child can then be put back into that family?
Simon, good thought. Mary?
Yeah, great question. So children only enter care if there has been abuse or neglect or risk of. On paper, the policy is there's immediate work done with that birth family to address the reasons, the safety issues is the words used, that led to the child entering care. So that's, as you say, things addressing addiction, domestic violence, might be, housing, whatever the needs are. Unfortunately, in every state and territory, we don't have enough child safety officers. So that intense work that on paper could be done with that birth family just isn't done. And that is often why we see case directions and decisions lagging on and on for years, because there aren't the resources to work intensely with that birth family. And I guess just also the other side of that is, if I put myself in the position, if one of my children had been removed, I wouldn't have very healthy coping mechanisms, and I'm a pretty well-adjusted person with a good community around me. For these birth families, their coping mechanism when their children are removed might not be very good, and they might disappear for 6 months or actually not engage with the department or be really angry. So there's a whole lot that's going on there that also inhibits that intense work being done. Sorry,
Simon, thank you so much for your call, Simon. Valuable insights and concerns that you've raised there.